You will be able to graph using the intercepts. Make sure that you are writing everything in your notebook, and we are on chapter 4, lesson 3, graphing using the intercepts. And this is the unit goal that goes with chapter 4. Now, make sure that you pause the video and write these notes down. The x-intercept is when y is 0. X-intercept is where the graph meets the x-axis, so the point will be x, 0. And also make sure that you'll draw a line in the middle and take the second column. Y-intercept is when the x is 0. Y-intercept is where the graph meets the y-axis, and the point will be 0, y. And in order to show this in a graph, so if a graph which has the x-axis and the y-axis listed like this, and you got an equation, and the graph of the equation, for example, if it comes to look like this. Now the graph of this equation is touching the x-axis at this point. So this point is actually your x value. Now when you look at the x value which touches the x-axis, the y value at that time is your 0. So this becomes your x-intercept. Your x-intercept is actually when the equation graph touches your x-axis. So when the line touches the x-axis, your y value is a 0. So you can find the x-intercept when your y is a 0. If you look at the other one, and I have the same graph, this is my x-axis and this is my y-axis. And now if I want to find my y-intercept, so my y-intercept is when the graph of the equation is going to cross the y-axis at some point. So if I look at the graph, it is crossing the y-axis at this point. So that means my y value is there, but my x value in this case becomes a 0. So this is my y-intercept. It is when it is intercepting the y-axis, or it is crossing the y-axis, or it is touching the y-axis. Now, if you want to find the y-intercept, the x value has to be a 0. Let's focus on question number 6. Finding the intercept. Find the x-intercept and the y-intercept of the graph of the equation. So if you look at this equation, you got negative 3x plus 9y equals negative 18. So we want to find the x-intercept. Now remember, the x-intercept is when the graph touches the x-axis, so the y value will be a 0 during that time. So since the y value is 0, I'm going to substitute y as 0 in this original equation. So I'm going to write negative 3x plus 9 times 0 equals negative 18. And now I'm going to solve for x. So this becomes negative 3x plus 0 equals negative 18. 9 times 0 is 0, so negative 3x plus 0 gives you just negative 3x. And now this is a one-step equation. So I'm going to divide this by negative 3 because there is no sign between the number and the variable. So I'm just going to divide this by negative 3 and negative 3. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 gives you a 1. 1 times x just gives you an x. And negative 18 divided by negative 3 is going to give you a 6. So that means your x-intercept is 6. And the point, if you are looking for the future reference, the point will actually look like 6, 0 because your x value becomes a 6 and the y value is a 0. At this point, they are only asking you for the x-intercept, so the x-intercept is just a 6. Now the second part of the same question, they are asking you to find the y-intercept. So to find the y-intercept, remember, the y-intercept is when the graph is going to cross the y-axis. So when it touches that point on the y-axis, the x value during that time will become a 0. So I'm going to take this x as 0. I'm going to substitute in the original equation. So I'm going to write negative 3 times 0 plus 9y equals negative 18. Any number multiplied by 0 is just going to be a 0 plus 9y equals negative 18. So basically 9y is equal to negative 18. 9 multiplies y. I don't see any sign in between. The opposite is to divide by 9 on this side and divide by 9 on this side. 9 divided by 9 gives you a 1. 1 times y is just a y, and negative 18 divided by 9 is going to give you negative 2. So the question was asking you what is the y-intercept. So the y-intercept in this case, I'm going to get it as negative 2. So for the future reference, we are looking at a point. The point will look like negative 2 for the y value, and during the time my x value becomes a 0. So this is how you answer question number 6. The x-intercept is 6. The y-intercept is negative 2. Focus on question number 20. In this case, you are given an equation y equals negative 2 plus 8x. The question is asking you to graph the equation, and they are asking you to label the points where the line crosses the axis. That means they are basically asking you where it's going to cross the x-axis and the y-axis. Now remember, the vocabulary that goes with the point where it touches or crosses the x-axis is nothing but your x-intercept and your y-intercept. So let's find the x-intercept to begin with. Remember, if you want to find the x-intercept, you are going to substitute y as 0. So you take the original equation. For the y, you replace it by 0. So 0 is equal to negative 2 plus 8x. Now remember, you are asked to find for x, which is the x-intercept. So let's take this, move it to the other side by doing the opposite. So negative 2, the opposite is positive 2, which means you are rewriting the equation which comes from unit 3. So negative 2, positive 2 cancels out, and you have just a 8x to deal with, and 0 plus 2 is just going to give you a 2. Now divide by 8, divide by 8. 8 divided by 8 gives you a 1. 1 times x is just an x, and 2 divided by 8 is going to give you 0.25. So the x-intercept is, in this case, is going to be 0.25. Now look at the point. So you did your calculations and you got x as 0.25. So the x value in this case is 0.25, and the y value in this case that you used to get the x is 0. So 0.25 comma 0 is actually 1 point. So you're going to go into the graph, and 0.25 is somewhere over here. 0.25 comma 0 is going to touch this point somewhere here, and that point is your 0.25 comma 0, and that is the point where it is going to cross the x-axis. Now let's find the y-axis. So the y-intercept is what you want to find. So to find the y-intercept, you're going to substitute your x as 0. So go back into the original equation. So now to find the y-intercept, your x is going to be a 0. So I'm going to write y equals negative 2 plus 8 times 0. So y is equal to negative 2 plus 0. 8 times 0 is 0. So y in this case is going to be negative 2. So I found the y-intercept in this case to be as negative 2. So if you look at the point is going to look like negative 2 for the y value, and during that time the x value was a 0. So this is my x value and this is my y value. So x is a 0, y is a negative 2. So I'm going to go back into the graph again, and now I'm going to plot the second point. So 0 and negative 2 is here. So 0 comma negative 2 is here. So now if you connect these 2 points, that is how your graph is going to look like. So that graph, if you extend, You can extend in both the direction, and the graph is going to keep going. And if you look at this graph, this is a graph of the equation y equals -2 plus 8x, and it is crossing the x-axis at 0.25, and it is crossing the y-axis at -2. So that is your x-intercept, which is in blue, and this is your y-intercept, which is in red. Focus on question number 30. This is a straightforward question. You are given a graph, and in the graph, they are asking you to identify the x-intercept and the y-intercept. So if you look at the graph, the x-intercept is when the graph is going to cross the x-axis. So this is actually your x-intercept. So your x-intercept, by looking at the graph, is going to be -1, -2, -3, -4. Now your y-intercept from the graph, if you look at it, is when the graph actually crosses the y-axis. So the y-axis in this point is touching. I'm going to mark it in green. So this is 1, 2, 3. So the y-intercept in this case is 3. That is what they are asking you to find. Now focus on question number 34. Now draw the line that has the given intercept. They are giving you a graph and they're giving you the x-intercept, which means there is no calculations involved. You just need to know what the x-intercept means. So remember, the x-intercept is when the graph is going to cross the x-axis. So the graph is going to cross the x-axis at 9. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is this point. So at that point, if you read it, the point is going to look like 9, 0. So this point is actually 9, 0. So which basically means your x-intercept is this and your y is a 0. If you look at your y-intercept in this case, I'm going to mark it in blue, it's going to be -1, which is here. So your y-intercept, if you look at it, the point is actually 0, -1. So your y-intercept, when it is -1, your axis is 0. That is how you get the point from the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Now, if you connect these 2 points, let me fix this. Your graph is going to look like this. Now focus on the last question, which is 37. It's a multiple choice question. The x-intercept of the graph is given to be as 2. What is the value of a? So you have an equation which looks like ax plus 5y equals 20. That is one information which is given to you. The second information they are telling you, the x-intercept of the graph is 2. So the 2 is actually your x-intercept. So I'm going to write the second information. The x-intercept is 2. Remember, when your x-intercept is 2, your y value is a 0. So that means the point is going to look like 2, 0. So which basically means when your x is 2, your y is a 0. I'm going to use this information, which they have given us, the x-intercept of the graph. This is 2. So the x-intercept is a 2, then y becomes a 0. So take these 2 points. I'm going to go back and plug it in here. So remember, they are asking you to find the value of a. So a, I'm going to keep it as it is, which is what I want to find. Now x, I'm going to replace it by 2. So a multiplies 2 plus 5, y is a 0. 5 multiplies is 0 equals 20. A times 2, I'm just going to shuffle this using the commutative property to give me 2 times a. A times 2 is the same as 2 times a plus 5 times 0 is a 0 equals 20. So 2a equals 20. 2 multiplies a. The opposite is divide by 2 on both sides. Okay. 2 divided by 2 gives you a 1. 1 times a is an a. 20 divided by 2 is a 10. So now you found the answer, which in this case, I'm going to mark it in red, is this.